Happy April, everybody, and welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. We try to make a lot of stuff and we learn along the way. Now that it is April, it is officially celebration season. We have proms, we have weddings, we have graduation, we have Arbor Day, but we have lots and lots of opportunities to get fancy. I'm not going to any of those things this year, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to be at least a little bit fancy, even if it's around my own house. However, now that I'm in my 40s, I have a lot more to consider whenever I do decide to be fancy that I didn't really have when I was in my 20s. Things like, can I get dressed and undressed without having to stretch first? Can I eat a full meal and not have to worry about the dress not fitting later? Am I protected from the sun because sunburns hurt a lot more now than they used to? Do I really have to wear heels in order for the outfit to make sense? It is very complicated, to say the least. So in putting all of those questions to consideration, I went out looking for a free sewing pattern that I think might work for getting fancy. My number one place for free patterns is Mood Fabrics. They have a ton of free things for you to use if you're learning how to sew, or even if you are an experienced sewer and you just don't want to buy patterns because you're cheap like me. I'm also not an experienced sewer. Those of you that have been here a while, I think you know that. But I ran across this dress pattern called the Lobelia pattern. But what I loved about this was that it looks like it kind of has a kimono top to it, and it has some poofy sleeves. I'm not a big poofy sleeve girl, but I think I could be convinced, so we're gonna give that a shot. And it didn't look overly complicated when I pulled up the pattern. Not only that, but the example that they made is this cool blue and white paisley pattern, and I immediately remembered that I had the perfect bed sheet for this. A few months ago, I found this king size sheet that's in this, I don't know, blue rose pattern, I guess, blue floral pattern. It's huge, and I think it's gonna be perfect for this project. Those of you that have been here for a while know that I absolutely despise doing mock-ups, so I think you are going to need a change of underoos when you hear that I actually made a mock-up of this top before starting this video. I'm really growing up here, folks. Once I made that mock-up, I did a few adjustments to the pattern, and I think I'm ready to get started. Let's get into cutting the pattern pieces from the fabric. I've already done it in paper, and I'll talk you through the process, and we'll see what the final product looks like. I'm really excited about this because when I did the mock-up, the poof sleeve is magical. So let's get started and see how this turns out. I'm very, very, very excited about this. Also, I hope I can get it done in a day because I want to wear it forever. Also, I want to quickly fill you guys in on the pants saga. I bought these off of Poshmark. They are Everlane. I don't remember what style they are, but I'll put that on the screen somewhere. But they're paper bag pants with dual pleats, and they're 100% cotton. And look at the pockets. I mean, it's not quite big. Oh my gosh, it's big enough for my phone. I know how expensive Everlane pants are, so I refuse to pay full price, but Poshmark prices, I think I can do that. Guys, these might actually be a winner. They're really, really comfortable. I just wanted to fill you in on the pants saga as well. All right, dress. So I have all of my trims sewed onto the first layer, and I'm gonna do some ironing. I know, some actual ironing. And while I do that, I thought this would be a good opportunity to do some middle-aged musings. I feel like this is a great spot to talk about what it means to be 41. But I have to remember to iron while I do this and not just talk. One of my first questions to everybody out there is, what age did you freeze? Like, mentally freeze. Think of yourself, what age are you kind of stuck in? For me, I think I just kind of feel like I'm still in my mid-20s, which is not a bad age to be frozen at, but I feel like I'm still in my mid-20s, but better. Here's what I mean by that. As I have gotten older, I feel so much more confident in just about everything. I give far fewer fucks about lots and lots of things and lots of things that I cared too much about when I was in my 20s. And that has really freed up a lot of brain space so that I can worry about other things that really don't matter to anything. And I'll talk about that in a minute. However, with that newfound confidence, unfortunately, has come a much more fragile body. I'm not big on exercising. I would love to get back to the gym and lift weights like I used to a few years ago before the plague hit, but I just find it hard to find the time to do that. And I think because of that, I pull every muscle about once a year. At different times, at least. I don't pull them all at the same time. Here are some really fun ways that I have pulled muscles over the last few years. Sleeping. Not just like bad sleep, just normal sleep. I go to sleep feeling fine. I wake up with a sore neck. And that's what I'm working through today. Sneezing. I can't count the number of times I have pulled a muscle in my back from just sneezing. And not crazy sneezing, not multiple sneezes, just normal, everyday sneezes that I have sneezed for my entire life. Now, for some reason, pulls a muscle. I have pulled a muscle tying my shoes. Now, I will give myself a little bit of credit that I did cough while I was tying my shoes and something in my back pulled. But yeah, tying my shoes. There was one time that I slipped coming down the stairs. I didn't fall down the stairs, I just slipped and had to kind of catch myself. I had to basically be in traction for about 48 hours. And then just moving anything heavier than my cat pulls a muscle, or at least makes me sore. So that's the less fun part about getting older, I guess. But the fun parts about getting older are I feel like I am far more empathetic to people and the problems that they are going through, probably because I've met more people than I had in my late teens and early 20s. I have far less patience for people that are not empathetic and don't take the time to understand where people are coming from, because there's no excuse for it. If you're a full-grown adult and you have been around society at all, you should understand that people are not like you and that they don't need to be and that they struggle, possibly more than you did. But overall, I've really enjoyed getting older. I loved my 30s because I had a lot more financial freedom and I could pick kind of how I wanted to live and how I wanted to use the resources that I worked really hard to get. I love the skills that I have developed as I've gotten older, and not just like job skills, but stuff like, YouTube. When I was in my 20s, I never would have thought of doing that, probably because I didn't have the confidence to do it. And here I am in my 40s doing YouTube. Because why not? What do I have to lose? And that's the other attitude that's really come with getting older. What do I have to lose? Maybe some time with YouTube, but at the same time, I'm developing some talents that I would not have had otherwise. Getting older kind of rocks. So if you are watching this and you're in your teens or 20s or maybe even your 30s and you're like, I don't want to get old. No, getting old is amazing because you have money and you have, things that you can do. Get old, enjoy it. My goal in life, I think at this point, is to be that old lady that walks around and gives zero fucks about what anybody is saying and has no problem telling people what she thinks of them. And because she's old and hopefully adorable, you can't yell at her. That's my goal in life. I just want to be a crotchety old lady that tells people what I think. So I got everything ironed, mostly satisfactorily. I'm going to put this together, put the bodice thing together. The next part is to sew up the facings that will go on the back side here. This design is supposed to have a lining, but I'm not sure that I want to line it yet. I bet I will, but I just haven't made that decision yet because I don't want it to be too heavy. Get the back facings for the trim done, sew up the body and then figure out how to gather all the sleeves together. So that's coming up next. Wow. I really like how this pattern handles the facings. Rather than doing bias tape, you just kind of cut them out. So I got them attached to the front panels of the body and then lined up the back neck with the front neck and then sewed along that top shoulder and arm line. With that done, then I had to flip the back side of the facings over, but first it involved cutting the seam allowance so that those curves could fold over a little more easily. The big thing to remember here is don't cut your stitching. And then I folded it over and I ironed it down. Because I chose to not put a lining in this dress, this also means that I had to fold under that back edge of the facings so that I didn't have any raw edges left. That was less than pretty, but still effective. The pattern calls for you to gather the sleeve and put it into a cuff, but I really wanted to do elastic sleeves because it seemed a little bit easier. And these sleeves are big, so I guess it seemed like a good idea. But I'm using some elastic that I salvaged from a fitted bedsheet, and it worked really well. Just did the little safety pin trick and gathered up those sleeves. Next time I do this though, I'm gonna have to add probably 2 inches to the length of the sleeve because this gathering thing took up some of the length. At this point I was able to try on the bodice and I was really happy with the way this was fitting. I'm not super happy with the way that the sleeves are just kind of constructed because they are one piece with the body and it pulls, but it's part of the charm, I guess. But overall, I thought the fit was really good and I was really digging the poofy sleeves. The final piece to this puzzle was constructing the skirt. So I went back to Mood because they have a really great circle skirt calculator that will do all the math for you, and I love math. No, I don't. And I cut out the longest circle skirt I could from what was left of this bedsheet and attached it to the bodice. A quick try on showed me that maybe it was just a skosh too big, but what is nice about that is that I could pull it over my head without needing to put in a zipper. I decided to put in some elastic in the back just to in that waist a little bit more, but I was ready to go. All right, let's try to wrap this up a little bit. So my overall thoughts about this dress. I really am digging this pattern. There are a few things that I don't like about it, and I think the biggest is the sleeves because it's one piece, and down here this seam seems to carry a lot of stress. If it were a set-in sleeve, I don't think I'd have that. But for ease of making it, the whatever kind of sleeves these are makes it really easy to put together. As I tend to do with all Mood patterns, this one came out a little bit too big, which I would much rather it be too big than too small. So I did put some elastic on the back to kind of gather it up just a little bit. I actually think I could have put a little bit more and cinched the waist in just a bit more. Overall, I think it turned out to be pretty flattering and pretty comfortable. I didn't use the skirt part of the pattern because I like circle skirts quite a bit and I think they are just so flattering. So I have no idea how the skirt part of it turns out. But if you make this pattern, let me know how that goes for you. Overall, I would give this pattern probably an 8 out of 10 because it really is pretty cool. And I think it's got a lot of ways to adapt it to make it into something that doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. As always, thank you for tuning in. I am so appreciative of everyone that watches my videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like because it really does help me out. And I will see you guys the next time. I'm not sure what we're gonna make, but we're gonna make something. All right, bye. I always seem to have an audience when I come out here, so check this out. I always feel like somebody's watching me.